everybody? Welcome to Friday edition of Box Seats. I'm your host, Frank Holder, and this is the show where we talk all about sports with a couple of comedians. Now, let me bring up one of the comedians who's been in the comedy game for such a long time that he knows when, he knows when some comics came out and they were corny. That's how far back he goes. My man Fig, you remember way back when you came out with a lot of comics used to be corny, now some of them are very funny?
Man, listen. I remember when bombing was a regular occurrence.
Yeah. Man, let me bring in my man, Mr. Amir Sealy. He is our resident sports connoisseur. Amir, how you doing today, brother?
I'm good. Happy Friday, gentlemen. It's another beautiful day in NYC. So I hope people out and about.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It looked like it's more beautiful down there than it is up here because it looked real cloudy and ugly out here. Anyway, Talent looks like he'd be a little bit late. Rodney Perry said he'd be a little late, so we're going to jump into the show and just get this thing started. I always do a COVID report to start out the show. I wasn't going to do one today, but when I saw a statement that Usain Bolt said, Usain Bolt caught COVID, got sick from COVID, and he put out a statement yesterday saying that he was against the Olympics even happening altogether. He thinks that the Olympics should be postponed altogether because of what's going on with this COVID situation. Now, I'm going to start out with you, Fig. I mean, we've been talking about this for a minute. I don't know what else more we can say, to add on to what we've already been saying, but being that we do a COVID report, tell me what you think about Usain Bolt, an Olympian, coming forward and saying something like that.
I agree with Usain Bolt 100,000%. The thing about COVID is that it's highly contagious. There's a new variant that's even more contagious than the one that we've known previously. And the volatility of it is that nobody knows that if you catch it, to how serious yours is actually going to be. Like some people get it and they're over it in a couple days. Or a week or whatever, 2 weeks, you know what I mean? And then they come back and they feel fine. Some people get it and they get through it. And then their effects are long lasting, sometimes to the effect of being real detrimental to your health and your life. One young lady lost her limbs behind it. And then, of course, the actual worst of it is some people die. So I'm on board with Usain Bolt because you just don't know what this thing will do to you.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. Amir, what's your thoughts on this thought about what Usain Bolt had to say? What's your thoughts?
Well, first and foremost, obviously, Usain Bolt being a Olympian and a Olympic champion, obviously his weighing in on this we should take seriously. But here's a weird conundrum with this whole thing. To everybody's point, it is deadly, it's serious, and so forth and so on. We had a year and some change, in all fairness, to every single solitary person to kind of get yourself in order. Now, obviously, everybody's going to do that at a different rate as well. But the reality of it all is we had at least a year and some change to kind of get an idea, figure some things out, and do some things to protect ourselves. If in that time frame you have not, is that the Olympic Committee's fault or is that our fault? That's something to think about. Now, I get it. Like I said, it could be deadly. All these other things can happen. But in all fairness to each and every person out here in the world, you have to take care of you. The doctors can't tell you how to do that. The Olympic Committee can't tell you how to do that. Only you can tell you how to do that.
No, that's absolutely right. I mean, it's absolutely right. But let's also put in perspective, too, that the Olympic Committee doesn't lose anything by pushing it back a year until we figure this whole thing out. They don't lose anything. The only thing they're going to lose is money. So then, and people themselves will lose their lives, of course, if they end up catching it. Because let's not forget, going to Tokyo, which has a 4% inoculation rate right now, is what we're looking at right now. Like they are, out of the entire world, they have the least amount of people who've been vaccinated, and we're sending our athletes from all over the world there to catch either COVID or the Delta variant, and then to come back home. You know what I mean? That's the only reason why we keep talking about it all the time. And again, it's the Olympics, so that's why I was like, you know what do we lose by pushing it back a couple of months? What do we lose by pushing it next year? Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm tripping. I don't know. But anyway, let's move on. I normally don't talk about baseball to a huge extent like this, but I'm gonna bring it up because Fig, the Chicago Cubs made history last night. It's the first time they have a no-hitter in franchise history, right? First time they had a no-hitter in franchise history, and they did a combined no-hitter, and they didn't even know. This is one thing I've never seen. I've never seen a baseball team be putting up a no-hitter and nobody know that they're doing a no-hitter before. I've never seen that before. But last night, the Chicago Cubs were able to do that, and they were doing it. And let's not forget either, ESPN reported this morning that we now have 7 no-hitters before July 1st. Also, first time in history. That's never happened either. So as we've been talking about the sticky situation in baseball, there's a lot of things to think about and consider. You know what I mean? So what do you think about, Vic?
It's kind of funny. Well, first off, I didn't see it and I didn't hear about it. That's my disclaimer. But now, since you mentioned it, Frank, it's kind of strange to me that a baseball team can have a no-hitter and don't know they have a no-hitter. All you got to do is look at the batters on the other side. The fact that they're not hitting the ball is a big clue that you had a no-hitter. I mean, it's right there in front of you. You got the evidence firsthand. How you going to know that you didn't have a no-hitter? And this also puts a damper on these pitchers crying about the fact that they can't have this sticky substance on the baseball at the time so they could get more control, and threaten to be knocking batters upside the head because they have lack of control over the baseball. We just had a no-hitter and pitchers are doing excellent right now. And they don't have this sticky substance on the baseball. So what's all the hoopla about?
Yeah, great point. Amir, what's your thoughts?
It's funny to say that there was a no-hitter and to say that the players themselves didn't even understand it or know that that's what's going on. How exciting is baseball? You're actually playing the game and you have no clue as to what's going on. So we're spitting that much. We're spitting that many sunflower seeds and spitting tobacco that we're not paying attention to the game at all. We're watching the grass grow in the outfield. Like, what are we doing? You're actually a part of history, and at no point does that dawn on you. That is funny as heck. Then the fact that you just mentioned, you got 7 no-hitters to this point, in the year, is again to the point that Fig just made. It lets you know that obviously there are some gentlemen out here who are pitchers who have not only control, but are doing an absolute phenomenal job in terms of being able to throw the ball and keep batters from, getting hit. So come on, guys, let's get it together. We got to do better.
Yeah, the funny thing is, I'll throw it out into this too. It's the first time in franchise. Like, they're not just making history; they're making franchise history for their own team in their city, and they weren't even hit for that.
That's hilarious.
Wow. And then none of the combined pitchers knew, especially Craig Kimbrell. He comes off the mound. He's like looking around like, why is everybody jumping up and down? Like, bro, it was hilarious. I got a little chuckle from that this morning watching that. Let me move on. And I want to talk about this next subject. Nenege I can't even pronounce this woman's name. I'm going to butcher it. I'm sorry. Her name Ogwumike. Nenege Ogwumike. She is a WNBA star. I'm sorry I butchered her name. But she got snubbed from the Olympic roster again. She is a 6-time WNBA All-Star with the LA Sparks. She is right now the biggest snub in Olympic history in women's basketball. And a couple of WNBA stars have come to her defense saying, if this ain't politics, I don't know what is, because we've never in NBA or WNBA history have ever had a 6-time NBA or WNBA star be snubbed from the Olympics since the professional athletes have been going into the Olympics. There's a problem going on with the WNBA. It's even worse that's happening in the NBA with Isaiah Thomas. So I don't know how to address this. I don't even know what they should do in the WNBA, but this is something that needs to be talked about more. Fig, what's your thoughts?
I don't get it, man. The one thing that we count on in sports, unlike the rest of America, is that sports is the one thing that's supposed to be a meritocracy, meaning the best of the best get to play above all and everything else. And clearly, that's not the case. Now, we all know there's a little politics in everything, especially sports and something like that. But with something like this, that seems to be so glaringly like overt in your face. It just doesn't make sense that this woman wouldn't be a part of the Olympic team. I can't imagine what it could be. Maybe there's some other story that we're not hearing about. Maybe, you know, she pissed somebody off or whatever. Like you just don't know. And the fact that the other players are coming to her defense, it has to be something that it can't be overlooked. You know what I mean? It has to be something serious.
You know what, dude? Before I go to you, Amir, I need to find out who actually selects the Olympic people to go to the Olympics in women's basketball, because it could be that she's just really hard ass to them and they're just trying to pay her back. You know what I mean? Like how baseball writers can't stand the baseball players and they just completely block them out of a Hall of Fame. It could be a situation like that. I don't know. But this is just something that needs to be talked about. And it's not being talked about because the powers to be have too much powers to be. You know what I mean? What do you think, Amir?
You know, it's funny. Hearing you bring that to light, I was laughing because I was thinking to myself, the only other thing that I could possibly think of, and just based off the pronunciation of her name, is it they expect her to play for her own country, which she may be a part of. Like, that's the only other thing that I could think of, because to your point about being a 6-time All-Star and obviously being a star in the WNBA and somebody who has the complete respect and understanding of her colleagues, what are we talking about? We've always done the best that we can, to Fig's point, of taking the best of what we have and putting it forward when it comes to being able to compete or being able to, put your best foot forward. So this really is one of those, situations where obviously there's something a little bit deeper here, but it's sad that in this day and age, we're not taking the best of the best and or rewarding people who obviously go out there and give their best to the sport. Like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah, and for the record, I think more attention needs to be paid to in women's sports overall, because there are certain people who are taking advantage of some of these athletes and these sports and everything else. You know what I mean? We just need to pay attention to more. And little side note is, I did not see this story reported on ESPN, Fox Sports, on anything anywhere. So those whoever the powers are, everything else, they're pretty powerful, because it takes a lot of power for you not to obviously put some this news up. You know what I mean? So let's move on, because the next story I want to talk about is, I don't know if you guys got a chance to see this, but my man now all of a sudden Jason Kidd gets hired by a team that he played for. I think he even played 2 stints with. Jason Kidd going to the Dallas Mavericks. I'm not surprised to see this at all. And I'm going to start with you, Fig. I'm not surprised. But it also does say, well, this is the reason why he was holding out for the Portland job, because Portland Trailblazers was trying to circle around to get him. A couple of teams was trying to circle around to get him too. But he must have known early on, when they were going to fire, when Rick Carlisle was walking out, that he was probably going to get that job. A lot of things are making sense right now. And he has supposedly one of the cushiest jobs. But the question for you, Fig, do you think Jason Kidd will be able to tame their all-star, so to speak? What's your thoughts?
It's really silly to me. It would depend on the fact. First, Jason Kidd was also instrumental in helping them win their one and only championship. Did you throw that out there also? But it really depends on how Luka sees Jason Kidd. Luka Doncic sees Jason Kidd. If he respects him as an NBA player and what he was able to do, and how he was able to be a cog in the wheel of the only NBA championship that Dallas has ever gotten in their history. It just, I don't, you never know about these young players and what it takes, the nuances that it takes to get into their head and get them to change, to play a different way, to foster winning. I mean, you can go out there and play and be a star and put up great stats and points and all that stuff like that, but it takes a little tweak to your skills to be able to foster winning.
And great point. Amir, do you think Jason Kidd will be that guy that will get all the people riled up and pay attention to him, and he's the guy that their all-star will pay attention to, because Rick Carlisle left. He quit the job. You know, a lot of people don't people are reporting it, but it is really being breezed by. Now, as I said a couple of days ago, too many NBA coaches don't quit their jobs. You know what I mean? All of them I've seen get fired. What's your thoughts?
Well, I think, again, this is one of those situations. I always say, of a kind of wait and see thing. But I do know this. Jason Kidd's stint, because if my memory serves correctly, he's already had a stint as a head coach, in the league. He didn't do bad. He didn't do good. And I think based off of the organizations and the coaches that he's actually, gotten the opportunity to work with and work under, are all going to help him, as far as what he does with this, franchise. You take into consideration the fact that he not only played for the, organization, but has always been a major cog as far as their championship run and as far as, some of their early stages of their organization. So he has some, probably has some leeway and some pull, maybe a little bit differently than what Rick Carlisle had. But again, we're going to have to wait and see. I think Doncic will, kind of respect this gentleman in particular, much more so, maybe closer in age, maybe because Jason Kidd, because Doncic does do a very good job of dishing out assists and things like that. So maybe he'll be able to find some common ground that he can, get this guy to see the game from a different perspective and a different light. And I think that it's going to be fun. I'm the one thing that I'm excited about is the close of the season and the start of next season, because of all of the moving pieces that we're seeing, coming into play.
Right. Yeah. But here's the question for both of you about Luka. What happens if Luka feels he's more powerful and starts to have that same situation, again with the Dallas Mavericks management and everything else? What happens if he doesn't like where Jason Kidd, even though Jason Kidd should be the perfect person because they both are all-star point guards and everything else? What do you do then if Luka doesn't pay attention? Because here's the thing that everybody's not talking about. Luka could be, first of all, Luka is from overseas. He has the overseas mentality and everything else. If he doesn't respect Jason Kidd starts doing something, he doesn't respect it, that's going to ruin everything. All this is still predicated upon him respecting Jason Kidd. And everybody's assuming he will respect Jason Kidd. What do you do then if Jason Kidd is not respected, Fig? What do you think?
Then it really comes down to Mark Cuban. At that point, you got to decide whether Luka is really bigger than the whole team. I mean, he's a star and he's shown himself to be a prolific scorer, but is he bigger than the whole team and the organization? Because at the end of the day, Luka don't write checks. I mean, he don't sign no check. He signed the back of his check. He don't sign checks for everybody in the whole entire organization. At that point, it's up to Cuban to see if he's willing to put. He say, "Yo, man, look, we gonna put you're gonna have to listen to him, or we're gonna get you up out of here." And then he's gonna listen to somebody, because at the end of the day, I don't care how much power the NBA players have. The buck stops with the ownership. You know what I mean? And if you're gonna be disruptive to the entire team, and you're not going to allow them to be able to win because of your attitude, then you need an attitude check, or you have to be moved. And if all of the NBA owners get together, you might be out of the NBA. And I'm starting to wonder. I know this is a side note, Frank. Sorry, I'm starting to wonder if that could possibly happen with Kyrie Irving. That's starting to bother me a little bit too, because it's one team after another.
Honestly, that's a great point too. But let's not forget this, and I'm gonna throw it to you, Amir. Let's not forget this. Mark Cuban sided with Luka over Rick Carlisle. You know what I mean? He made that decision clearly on, which is probably the reason why Rick Carlisle was like, "This is the last straw," and left and quit. So, do you agree? Not that Fig's wrong, because I think Fig's 100% absolutely right. What do you think? Do you agree with what Fig's saying, Amir? What's your thoughts?
I think that Fig definitely makes some great points, but I think this is something else that we may have to factor in, and we may not have thought about. Jason Kidd, to Fig's point about being on the last championship team they had, he also had a great relationship with Dirk Nowitzki. Dirk Nowitzki also happens to be a player who is from another country. So Jason Kidd may have to bring old big brother back to the fold. Hey, look, I'm going to need you to sit down with this young boy and explain to him how this game really goes here, what we do, what our, game plan is, and how we, what the culture is like, and how we were able to manufacture a culture that allowed us to win a championship here. So there's a lot of things, like I said, that are going to come into play over the next couple of months to really see where this kid's head is. He at the end of the day too. We also have to realize he's only 21, 22 or something like that. So he's literally a kid.
Right,
Those of
right,
us who have children, you know what it's like, or you remember what it was like when you were 20, 21, 22. You thought you knew everything about the world too.
Yeah.
So
right,
sometimes you got to have that, that moment where you get checked and you're like, okay, let me calm down. So we
right.
have to wait and see.
Well, the only reason why I bring it up is because everybody's assuming that Jason Kidd is the answer. Everybody's assuming that he's going to be the guy. Everybody's assuming that Luka's going to listen. And I just had this thought saying, what happens if this kid, comes in and he doesn't listen? Hey, he might not like Jason Kidd. I just know in a year or so, something like that, if he doesn't like Jason Kidd, all this stuff comes to head and all that stuff is mute. And if the Mavericks are losing and they don't get past the first round, there's going to be more problems. They're going to be right back to the same spot where they were at.
Well, Frank, let me ask you this. We know that a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times when you have superstar players on your team, a lot of times the question is posed to them, about another hire, like especially when they're getting rid of a coach and stuff like that. Maybe Luka was included on this decision. So what do you think about, Jason Kidd? Maybe Luka signed off on him. That's something that, we didn't hear.
No, I'm sure Luka signed off on him. I'm sure of that. But after you spend time together with people and everything else, and you get to know them, that's all I'm thinking of. After you spend time with them and you get to know him, maybe he might not like. Again, he's 21. His brain, scientifically, his brain has not even matured to the level of maturity because he's not 25. Scientifically, it says your brain gets there at 25. He's not even there yet. So I'm just saying that this could be a possibility nobody's talking about yet. So I don't know. But anyway, let's move on because I want to talk about the series last night. We saw, I'm sure us three, we all saw the game last night. We saw the Clippers come back. We saw the Clippers play. Honestly, they played great ball. I'm going to throw it to you since Fig just talked. I'm going to start with you, Amir. I'm going to ask you this. Is it possible that the Clippers are playing, and it looks like it is it possible the Clippers are playing better without Kawhi Leonard and could possibly win this series without Kawhi Leonard? What you think, Amir? Because it looks like to me, sitting way up here in Boston, that the Clippers are playing better. They're moving the ball around, and they literally are finding the open man and hitting big shots without Kawhi Leonard. What's your thoughts, Amir?
It's so funny. We touched on this a little bit yesterday, and I said one of the things that we may or may not be, giving enough credit to is Tyronn Lue. It appears that this gentleman has, figured out specific ways in order to put this team in the best position possible to still be successful. And while PG obviously is leading the charge, he's the floor general, he's the guy who's getting it done. Tyronn Lue appears to be making the right moves behind the scenes in order to give them those opportunities. Now, I will say this, and I've been saying this all, playoffs. I think that the Clippers game last night was no different than what we've been seeing the entire playoffs for the most part, with the exception of Atlanta Hawks. You're winning at home, which is what you're supposed to do. Last night, Booker, CP3, and the kid Ingram, they did not have great games. So I'm looking for those guys to rebound. Let's see if they rebound and they have great games and we still get the same sort of outcome. Then I'm knowing that it's a Tyronn Lue thing besides the players out there coming and, doing what they're doing. So, I'm happy about what we're seeing thus far. And I'm super proud of the bounce back that Paul George has had in these last few rounds to, hopefully finally quiet all of us who have been so on his back and, trying to demoralize that young man over the last couple of seasons.
Right. But Fig, I'm sure you saw the game too. I'm sure you looked at certain points of the game and everything else too. Now, I'm going to pose the same question to you that I posed to Amir. Amir made some great points. The Suns did not play well, but the Clippers played phenomenal though and everything else. And to me, like I said, I think they're playing better without Kawhi Leonard. Not to say that I want them to separate from Kawhi Leonard, but I think they're playing better with Kawhi Leonard, and it showed last night. What's your thoughts on this, Vic?
I'm not so sure that we can say they're playing better without Kawhi because, Kawhi helped them through those last two playoff series, and he was a strong part in helping them get over the hump, scoring and defensive wise. The one thing that I will say is that I'm not so sure the Clippers played. You know what? They did play better. They did. But here's the thing. They were in every game in Phoenix. Every single game they was in it. And the key to me is that it seemed that they ramped up their defensive intensity, and the fact that oh my God, I just had his name on the tip of my tongue. This kid that got hurt yesterday. I think that played a big part in the fact that Chris Paul came in a little rusty, and the kid that went out that twisted his ankle yesterday was a major part in helping Phoenix win the first two games. And Cameron Payne got injured, twisted his ankle yesterday, and the fact that he was out, I think it slowed down Phoenix a little bit because they run faster. They're a faster team when Chris Paul is not in and Cameron Payne is out there. And they look really slow yesterday. And I think that was the reason that and the Clippers defense was instrumental in helping them win yesterday at home.
You know what, Fig? I'm going to say this. If I had a bell, I'd be ringing it right now and be hitting it, going bing, 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 because I'd be like, yo, you are absolutely right. People are overlooking this kid, Cameron Payne. They have been the entire NBA playoffs. Nobody's talking about this kid or anything else. He is the most, yes, Chris Paul is the guy. Yes, Devin Booker is the guy. But this Payne kid, boy, he is the entire kid keeping that whole motor going. You know what I mean? Like and you guys can agree to this, or hell, you might even disagree. Every NBA team that's on a championship run, they always got that one dude that comes off the bench and keeps the fire burning, or sometimes can even ignite it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Every team has that when they and you can pick them out. But when a team doesn't have that, they never make it to the finals and they never win. This guy, right. If the Suns do get to the finals and he gets injured, you could literally circle the moment right here. That was the moment.
Absolutely.
You could literally circle it because I thought that last night too. When I saw him get hurt, I was like, wow, they're playing a lot different with this guy not in the whole thing. I mean, that's what I thought of. Another thing too, I wanted to talk about. Side note, I want to talk about something. Scottie Pippen's been in the news recently. He's been in the news for a couple of things. And Fig's already laughing because he already know what I'm about to say. And you probably know what I'm about to say too, Amir. I have to say, guys, I'm not liking the fact that Scottie Pippen is making some ridiculous statements. I don't like it. We all heard what he said about Kevin Durant. And then he also said the Sixers, he said Doc Rivers, he set Ben Simmons up for failure. He said that last night too. And I was like, I don't know what Scottie Pippen, if he's smoking that marijuana brand that he getting on right now. I know because he's behind a couple of marijuana brands. I don't know if he's doing that or not. I just wish, my wife has a saying. My wife has a saying. She says, sit down somewhere, have several seats. You know what I mean? She has that saying. And that was one of the moments I was like, this dude needs to have several seats. But that's my opinion. Fig, when you hear that Scottie Pippen said on national TV and that Ben Simmons is set up for failure, and what he said about Kevin Durant, what is the first couple of thoughts that cross your mind? And I don't even want to put words in your mouth. What'd you say? What'd you think?
I think he's sampling some of his investment product. And the fact that he was drinking and smoking a cigar at 9 o'clock in the morning. I mean, he drinking dark liquor and smoking a cigar at 9 o'clock in the morning shows where his mentality is. Most people are eating breakfast and drinking coffee. He got dark liquor and smoking a cigar in a dimly lit place. I don't know whether it was in his house, basement, whatever. I don't know where he was. But here's the thing. This wasn't Ben Simmons' first rodeo. I mean, he did play last year and the year before that, and I believe the year before that. And I don't believe he was hitting free throws back then either. So basically, what Scottie Pippen is saying, the fact that Doc Rivers put Ben Simmons in the game set him up for failure. Isn't he an NBA basketball player? Mm-hmm. And aren't they supposed to play? I mean, so how am I setting him up for failure? I'm not helping him with free throws. I didn't tell him not to take a shot. I'm putting him in the game. You're supposed to be an all-star. You got a multi-million-dollar contract to be able to play the game at the highest level, and you're not playing. How do I put that on Doc Rivers? That doesn't make no sense. Then what's supposed to do? Take him out in the fourth quarter, don't let him play at all? And what he said about Michael Jordan and Kevin Durant, I'm like, my God, You played with Michael Jordan. You never won anything without him. You had 2, 3, 4. You had 2 years when Michael Jordan played baseball. You didn't win anything. Then he came back and you won 3 more, 3 in a row. Then Michael Jordan retired and you went on to other teams and stuff like that. You never won without Michael Jordan. Why are you trying to crush the man that helped you and assist you in 6 NBA world championships? It's just beyond me. I don't understand it.
Let's not forget, you're right about the teams he was on. The Portland Trailblazers team he had was stacked. They should have won the NBA championship that year.
Yes.
But let's not forget, Amir, wasn't Scottie Pippen the same dude who had a headache and he couldn't play? He couldn't play in the game and he screwed around and messed up Michael Jordan. Jordan could have literally had 7 rings if they didn't have that blip with Scottie Pippen. Oh, I can't, my head is hurting. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm
migraines.
Yeah.
You know what? Again, one of the things that I think is interesting to me, this may or may not be relevant, but I'm always amazed when I see any of the former players who get on and we belittle other players. We, do our best to throw some salt in the game, as we say from time to time. The reality of it all is this: Scotty, you are an outstanding player. You're quote unquote one of the 50 greatest, depending on who you ask. You're a world champion. You're definitely a person who has knowledge of the game and has played the game not only at the highest level, but has played it incredibly well. It's these kids' turn. As I keep pointing out, they're kids. Whether we love this or hate it, they're still kids. Yes, Kevin Durant may be a little bit older. Ben Simmons is, again, at a very, crucial and early age. Scotty, when you first came into the league, to the point that you just made, Frank, and the Detroit Pistons were picking on you the way that they were picking on you. There were games that you didn't want to get up off that, floor and get back in there. So look, these kids are going through their growing pains the same way that you did. And fortunately or unfortunately, we're hoping that Ben Simmons doesn't pull the same situation that happened with the gentleman from Orlando who missed the free throws and then he was never the same. I can't think of his name right now. I mentioned him the other day, and one of y'all brought it. One of y'all were able to name him. But he played for Orlando, and he missed those free throws, and he was never the same after that. I'm hoping that Ben Simmons won't have a similar situation. This young man is young. He's got a bright future ahead of him. We just have to continue to encourage him and hope that he believes enough in himself to come back and show everybody what he's capable of. Because every other NBA player, that's what's happened. It doesn't have anything to do with what we think and how we feel. Paul George could have faded away. We see what he's doing now. So you just got to be giving yourself the opportunity, believe in yourself, and get the job done. And I think that Scottie Pippen is one of those guys who, unfortunately, is still upset about certain things that may have been brought up when they, talk about him and whatever. But you got to let all of that go. It's opinions. They like everything else.
Yeah.
So who cares?
Again, great points. You guys are on point today with your great points and everything else. And let me throw this little caveat out there too about Paul George. Paul George was complaining last year about playing in the bubble and everything else. I think it's fair to say he's playing better now since he's not in the bubble. You know what I mean? And maybe even though at the time we were giving him a hard time about playing in the bubble. I mean, everybody was giving him a hard time. But maybe what he said is actual true. And these young players, they really are. It's all about mental for them in front of big crowds. You know what I mean? Maybe that is. And right now he's proven that to be a fact. Let me talk about the next series and everything else. Oh, Mavs just made it official. Jason Kidd is going to be the head coach. Mavs just made it official. All right,
Congratulations,
Jason Kidd.
Yeah. Let's move on to talk about the Hawks-Bucks series, Fig. I'm going to start saying that out to you. Everybody was surprised at what happened with Trae Young. He came in there. Now the Hawks have home court. They literally have home court. The Hawks is another team that's a mental team. They play mentally. They play using their mind. They move the ball around and everything else. Do we expect another upset? What are your thoughts about the game that's going to happen? I think it's tonight. The game's tonight.
Yeah, tonight.
So what are you thinking about when you see this? Because it seems Trae Young plays best under pressure. Like, that boy is performing extremely well and literally could be one of 2 players as the MVP of the playoffs. You know what I mean? What's your thoughts?
My biggest thing, with the exception of the Knicks, I think they're underestimating Trae Young. And what I mean when I say that is that nobody is treating him with the respect I believe is due him. I think he deserves a double team. I think the Atlanta Hawks goes as Trae Young goes. And if you could cut off the head of the snake, you may be able to shut them down. If you treat Trae Young like a superstar as opposed to an undersized NBA player, I think you'll be able to get wins. Like, nobody double teams this kid to get the ball out of his hands early. Nobody picks him up full court. They always let him drive to the right and get that runner. And even when you push him left, he puts the ball back in his right hand to shoot the floating shot. And nobody makes him play defense. Who is Trae Young guarding? He stands in the corner on defense and gets rest. I would be posting this kid up. I would be putting him in pick and rolls. I would letting people hit him on defense. I would make him work so that at the end of the game, Trae Young doesn't have legs to shoot 3-pointers, or that Trae Young doesn't have the energy and legs to be able to get into the paint and break my defense down. You got to make this kid work. Right now, he's emerging as a superstar, and you have to treat him with that respect on both sides of the ball.
I agree with that. Amir, can you add, or do you want to subtract from what you just heard Fig say?
No, I think Fig is absolutely on point. I think, to me, the biggest thing that they're not doing, to Fig's point, is not only do you have to make him work, they got to put a body on him. Look, I'm a lightweight, so I know how much of a lightweight he is. Those guys have got to bang him, bump him, and like I said, I'm not talking about anything malicious or dirty. I'm talking about just literally put some mileage on that kid. Yes, he's young. He's fast. He's like watching a road runner. But you gotta bump him. You gotta, cause him to get out of his comfort zone, which is not only his speed, but his ability to just set things up the way that he's been setting things up. They have got to put a body on him. They got to bump him, and everybody, big men, little men, everybody. When you get a chance, you grab his arms, all the stuff that you would normally do to wear somebody down. They need to try and do that to this young man. Now, like I said, I don't suggest anybody do anything malicious, like knock the dude out the air and anything crazy like that. But I'm saying they definitely have to work on forcing this kid to really go through those, tough picks and, things of that magnitude. Then the post-up game, as Big just pointed out, he's too little. Why isn't somebody, whether it's PJ Tucker or whoever, y'all are supposed to be running play after play to put this young man in a position where he's uncomfortable. But the biggest thing, and this is me, just again trying to figure this out, Giannis, sir, you have been trying to, year after year, get to that next level. Giannis, stop with all the outside stuff, son. Go on down in that low post and punish these dudes. I'm sorry. What you call is too light for you. You need to go on in that post and put in that work and make these dudes respect you. That's also on Giannis. So
Yeah, but that's
we'll wait and see.
that's also on coaching, because when you
On the coach, yeah.
when you draw plays, you're supposed to be having it down there. And Giannis, like you're right, he should be going down plays. Atlanta should not even be in this series at all if the coaching was on point. They shouldn't even be in it. But they're also getting out coached. Let's not forget that they're getting out coached by one of, if not the best coach in the league right now.
Right now.
Yeah, so let's not forget that. But it's that time too when I want to get in. My man Fig, he's got to do our top dogs. And since I want to leave enough time so I can criticize it if I want to have to criticize. Hold on. Let me stop my knuckles so I can be all up in this and see if I get ready to criticize it. All right, Fig, so you ready for the top dogs, man? We ready to get this down or what?
Yeah, man, I'm ready for the top dogs. But I got one disclaimer, Frank. I did not see that game that you talked about with the no-hitter for Chicago, or else I'm sure that would have had that in my top dogs. But number one on the top dog list, ladies and gentlemen, is Jason DeGrom, pitcher for the New York Mets. In his return from an injury, a scar on his pitching arm, a scare. He had an injury scare on his pitching arm. He came back and he pitched 7 innings with no hits, 6 strikeouts, beating the Atlanta Braves 4-2 I got Jason DeGrom on my top dogs. That means I was watching baseball, Frank. How about that? I was watching a little bit of baseball. Number 2 on the list, I give it to my man Terrence Mann from the LA Clippers, man, dropping 39 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist in 36 minutes in a closeout game over the Utah Jazz. We got the Clippers 131, the Utah Jazz 119. Game 6, closeout. Terrence Mann showed up as big off the bench. Number 3, Kevin Huerter. Hurt him, Kevin. Please, Kevin, don't hurt him. Kevin Huerter was big in Game 7 against Philly, dropping 27 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, sending Philly on vacation, 103-96. Did Joel Embiid cry again? I don't know. Anyway, number 4 on the list, ladies and gentlemen, Giannis, the Greek freak Antetokounmpo, another Game 7 over Brooklyn in the Barclays Center. An overtime game, 40 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, sending the Brooklyn Nets packing on vacation. 115-111. Last but not least, we just talked about this young man emerging as a superstar in the NBA, doing the damn thing. Very underrated. Trae Young, ladies and gentlemen. I really don't like this kid because of what he did to my Knicks, but I'm putting him on my top dogs. Trae Young in an epic Eastern Conference Final first time experience. First game, 48 points, 7 rebounds, 11 assists. Who was he playing against? Ladies and gentlemen, ATL 116, Milwaukee Bucks 113. Trae Young made the top dog list, even though I really don't like the kid because of what he did to my Knicks. That's my top dogs. Tell me what's yours.
Yeah. No, I'm just playing.
Yo, now hold on. Now this is what's so funny, and this is, again, not to knock what Fig came up with, but there are 3 people who should be honorable mention. You forgot the young lady Sha'Carri Richardson, who's now become the fastest woman in the world.
Yeah,
she did that in track and field this week.
I love that young lady, man, with the colorful hair.
Okay,
whose mother had died a week before she even won that thing.
Wow.
Her mom died, so she got to be on that, and she covered her grandma and everything else. Huge movement. Go ahead, man.
Then there's another gentleman in the men's thing, a gentleman named Trayvon Bromwell. He has gone the whole season and not been defeated in the 100-meter races at all. So he's going to the Olympics.
Wow.
And then last but not least, you got Simone Manuel for swimming. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but a sister in swimming, and I forget if it's the freestyle or whatever, thing she's in. Got to give honorable mention to all those beautiful people.
Yeah, because all three of them qualified for the Olympics, and all 3 of them were underdogs, and nobody expected them to win. That's a huge story. Right. But listen,
that's dope, man, because I think I saw something, and it sort of eluded me. There's 3 women that was doing the damn thing. The young lady from track, the young lady from swimming, and then we got Simone Biles from the gymnastics. So 3 sisters doing the damn things, winning and making their way into the Olympics. You guys are absolutely right. Absolutely.
But here's the thing: we can't knock the list because the list you had too was
incredible.
Yeah, right. That's why Amir beat me to the punch too, because I was going to say the Olympics. So I'm glad he said it, and I didn't have to say it. But that was a great point. It looked like I was hating. You know what I mean? I could have said this. I could have said, "Yeah, I ain't like your little list, your little top dog."
But most of my games were closeout games too.
Yep, and again, another reason why you can't, because when you have closeout games and people perform in a closeout game, whether it's a game 6 or game 7, you send somebody packing home, and you cannot knock that at all, because that's where the cream rises to the top. You know what I mean? That's why everybody you mentioned, the cream is rise to the top. Because the closeout game that the Clippers did and the closeout game that those guys did for the Nets, those are phenomenal games. But the sister for track and field, I forgot her name that Amir just mentioned. That was the most
Sha'Carri Richardson.
Yeah, she's amazing, man.
The most moving thing I had seen. I meant to even report that on Monday. Most moving thing I had seen, especially the way she hugged her grandmother after her mother had died. Literally, like,
yes.
you know what I
That was
mean?
incredible.
It was phenomenal because she wasn't even expected to do that. And then she ran with the hair. Now, here's the thing, too. Let me set it up. Everybody, the Olympics guys are reporting it, saying, oh, look at her hair, look at her nails, and she's pointing. They were thinking that she was pointing for something completely. She was literally pointing to her grandmother and saying, look at the time I did, and giving honor to her mom. And they're thinking that she's pointing because she's showing out her hair and nails. She wasn't even thinking about her hair and nails. She was thinking about her mother who just died. You know what I mean? I was like, dude,
Right.
that's amazing. And of course,
she was thinking about her hair and nails before the race, not after.
Yeah. She thought about that too. And she also made some headway too, because now everybody and her mother is looking at this chick right now, and she's getting a whole lot of national attention when nobody knew who she was a week ago. So kudos to her. Kudos to her.
I've been seeing a lot of her on YouTube. I can't believe I forgot to mention her. Yeah, she's dope.
Vic, you got 5 slots. You are not going to get everybody, which is the reason why I like it, because then I can always say, well, what about this person? What about that person? I'll give you a hard time every Friday, unless I really can't. Unless I can't. Sometimes I get stuck. I just can't do it. Because sometimes I agree with you. All right, now, I don't know if you guys saw this morning, but Urban Meyer came out this morning, and he basically almost admitted saying, you know what, Tim Tebow, you're going to have a hard time making the 53-man roster. You know what I mean? And he shouldn't even have did that to himself. I don't think anybody's surprised with this. So he did it to himself by even including him. Some players are upset because they felt that he even taken a roster spot at the 90-man roster spot. Now, Nick, are you surprised that Tim Tebow might not make the roster, or what's your thoughts on it?
No, man, I think a few people said it sort of served 2 purposes. One, it took some of the pressure off the rookie quarterback that they're expecting to start. And then it gave them some publicity that they probably wouldn't have gotten over some other teams. Tim Tebow's in his hometown. He's beloved, a media darling. Doesn't have nobody has a bad thing to say about him other than the fact that of his talent. So it sort of served 2 purposes. You know what I mean? So I don't see it as a bad thing, but some people foresaw the fact that he wasn't going to make the team.
Right, Amir, are you surprised that this dude literally is not going to make the 53-man roster? Because word out is that not only did he take a slot, for somebody potentially could have made the team. You know what I mean? But they wanted to give Tim Tebow this shot. You know what I mean? Again, politics. You know what I mean, Amir? Politics.
I was going to say that. I think that's the big thing here. We're looking at another situation, especially for the NFL. I think y'all touched on something yesterday that, or a day or so ago, that also, was in alignment with the NFL. The player who was gay who came out, and the NFL, appeared to put their the NFL behind them. They appeared to, say that we respect him, we love him, so forth and so on. Obviously, the only, drawback to that is if you're going to do that, let's just do it across the board. I don't have to get into it specifically. Y'all know what I mean by that. When you start doing these kinds of things, you have to do that for all of your players. You have to respect all of your players' stances. You can't just pick and choose when it's feasible for you to do specific things. Now, I do know that the players, and especially the owners in the NFL, are still one of the old boys clubs that's, still hasn't definitively been, I don't know what I can't think of the word right now. Integrated. There you go. But the bigger thing is you're talking about a situation where you got a young man who we know probably doesn't stand a snowball's chance in hell. The 3 of us probably stand a better chance of making an NFL roster than this dude. And that's not even where we are with it. And that's no disrespect to him. That's just a reality. Yeah. But the NFL, like, so many organizations, especially in this climate, is trying to do damage control when it comes to their organizations and when it comes to their PR spins. And unfortunately, Tim Tebow is another person who has just gotten caught up in that, in that energy. Urban Meyer, to his point, we still have to wait and see if this man is capable of, coaching on this new level. Because in all fairness, yes, he's been absolutely phenomenal on the college level. But as we all know, the pros is a different level. The players come out, they got a different mind frame and mindset, and it's a different energy. So there's a lot of moving pieces to this. And maybe Urban Meyer might have been trying to also take the light off of himself by throwing this gentleman out there and, getting some,
Another great point.
some side eyes at him. So, we got to wait and see as always, man.
Another great point. 20 seconds. I got 20 seconds. I want to ask you guys one last question in 20 seconds because Amir touched on it for a second there. When the player came out and he, came out as being gay as an active NFL player, one thing I did notice that the entire league, all across the board and everything else, gave him basically they put their arm around him and everything else. They brought him in. They gave him support all the way career across the board. Then I saw an article. I don't know if it was in the Wall Street Journal, Bleacher Report, whatever. I saw an article saying, would he have been wholeheartedly accepted like that if he was black? Because an NFL player literally was trying to be an active NFL player 2 or 3 years before who came out as gay, and he got immediately cut. And then he didn't get this kind of support. So 20 seconds, Fig. Do you think if this man who just came out as gay was black, do you think now we would have accepted it as being a black gay player, active NFL player? And you think now the time is right, or it doesn't matter the color? What's your thoughts? 20 seconds.
I think we're in a different time now, but still, I think we got a lot of work to do. So possibly not, if he's already on the team, maybe they support him. But the fact that you're just coming in and you come out before you actually make the team, I think he was a little premature in the fact that he came out in that type of situation.
All right, Mia, you got 20 seconds. Would you agree, disagree? What's your thought?
I think that, chances are he probably wouldn't get the same backing. He probably wouldn't get the same, kind of support. But to Fig's point, that's really where the problem lies. Like I said, we got to do that across the board for everybody. We can't just pick and choose the moments when we want to do that.
Exactly.
Or they shouldn't pick and choose the moments when they want to do that.
Yeah, and I could have said a couple of jokes on that, but I won't. I'll leave that for the next.
You said they put their arm around him. I was like, what you trying to say, Frank?
Yeah. I thought of that too after I said it, but I'm not even going to go there. I want to thank you for sitting in for Talent today. Wasn't able to make the show. I want to also thank you for possibly even sitting in for Rodney Perry too, who wasn't able to make the show. Thank you. Amir, tell everybody out there how they can follow you.
First of all, as always, man, thank you, Frank. Thank you, Fig. I always enjoyed coming on here and chatting, chatting with you gentlemen. A-Rock Sealy down there at the bottom, AROCKSEALY on Twitter, and Amir Sealy on everything else, Facebook. On Instagram is A-Rock Sealy. On Twitter, it's Amir Sealy. And on Facebook, it's Amir Sealy.
Right.
Honored, gentlemen, honored.
Thank you all for watching. I thank all the people out there, too, for commenting. And I like all the comments that are coming in. I can't even address all. Next week, I want all those people who are commenting to be able to come in. We're going to bring them in and have them say their 2 cents, too. I'm really going to be pushing forward to that because today would have been a great day for them to come in and say what they wanted to say and all that stuff, too. We could have taken some questions. So, Sharonda and all you all who's sitting there watching, be prepared next week. Get your hair did. All that because we're gonna be putting you on camera. You know that's gonna happen. Get your head did and all that because we're gonna say we see what y'all look like and interact. Fig, tell everybody out there how they can follow you, brother.
Boxies, baby, Monday through Friday, 1 to 2 p.m. Be here because we the best damn sports show on TV. All social media platforms right there at the bottom of the screen at Comedian Fig. See y'all on Monday.
Yeah, we'll see y'all Monday. Again, thank you all for watching. Be prepared next week. We're going to be bringing y'all in. Like, Amir ain't the only one who got all the goods. We're going to bring the ladies in. We're going to bring the gentlemen in. See if some of you all are also sports connoisseurs or not. Or see if some of y'all don't know what the hell y'all talking about. You know what I mean? Because y'all be saying some crazy comments on the side.
Sure do.
Yeah, I look at y'all side eye, but we're gonna we're gonna crack on y'all. At least I'm not. You know what I mean? I'm not, but we're gonna let y'all come in and say something. We're gonna start that next week, which y'all can come in and comment. Y'all know the show. It's called Box Seats. We'll be back I almost said tomorrow. We'll be back Monday. Box Seats, 1 o'clock. Until then, thanks for watching. Y'all have a great and safe weekend. It's gonna be really hot. Humid. Drink water. Hydrate. Be safe, y'all. We'll see y'all Monday. Peace.